It's being hailed as a major step forward for our criminal justice system. An unprecedented federal review of death penalty crimes has revealed 27 cases where FBI forensics experts may have helped garner wrongful convictions. Often it involves layers of complexity. Tonight we examine one bloody murder and a questionable investigation which condemned a man to death. But did the state execute an innocent man? Nightline co-anchor Terry Moran goes to Texas for our series Crime and Punishment.
A Friday night in Corpus Christi, Texas, 8:05 p.m., and a call comes into 911.
I have a suspect with a knife inside the store.
It's Wanda Lopez, a 24-year-old single mom working as a cashier at a roadside gas station, and she's worried.
What's he doing with a knife? Has he threatened you in any way?
Minutes later, Wanda Lopez calls 911 again.
You want it? I'll give it to you. I'm not going to do nothing to you. 2602 South Padre, got an armed robbery going down right now. Get out of him.
Lopez is stabbed to death in a vicious struggle. It's just one of many crimes that occur in this country every year that end in the death penalty. But now this killing from 30 years ago is raising the most provocative question. Does the death penalty in our country always punish the guilty, or are mistakes made? Is it possible our system has killed an innocent man? Carlos de Luna. Police rush to the bloody scene and find there's an eyewitness who entered the store just as the killer left. A description is broadcast immediately across police radios. As Wanda Lopez is rushed to the hospital where she dies from a knife wound to the chest, police find 21-year-old Carlos de Luna a few blocks away hiding underneath a truck. He's brought back to the scene of the crime where an eyewitness positively IDs him. Even though there are no fingerprints, no physical evidence linking him to the scene, he becomes the lone suspect. At trial, he testifies another man committed the crime, but Texas seeks the death penalty and gets it. De Luna is executed in 1989. To his last breath, he swears he did not do it.
But he doesn't feel he should die for something he didn't do.
I just wish, people would do something about it and look for that person, and do something about it.
No one did until now. Meet James Liebman. Do you believe Carlos de Luna was actually factually innocent of murder?
I do.
He didn't do it.
I believe that. Looking into it, Carlos de Luna said all the way along, I didn't do it. I saw another man do it.
James Liebman, a law professor at Columbia University, has conducted one of the most thorough reviews of a capital punishment case in U.S. history, spending years digging into de Luna's case in a way no one, not even the police and prosecutors, have.
We're convinced that the state of Texas executed the wrong man.
And he thinks he can prove it.
What we can say happened for sure is they had a lot of evidence that another man did it, and they didn't go look.
That other man is Carlos Hernandez, says Liebman, the man Carlos de Luna identified as the killer, and the man prosecutors never pursued, despite clues Liebman has now unearthed. To check out Liebman's claims, we went to the Texas town that was rocked by this heinous murder so many years ago. This was the scene of the crime. It was a Shamrock gas station and convenience store. It's now a car dealership. But it was here on a lonely night in 1983 that Wanda Lopez was brutally stabbed to death. And these grisly crime scene photos, which Liebman developed after they lay unseen for decades in police files, are crucial new evidence, he claims.
We found photographs that were not shown to the jury, not shown to the defense, that we found 20 years later.
One of the most shocking photos shows a detective standing on top of possible evidence.
You can see she's stepping right on top of a napkin that was knocked off of a surface onto the floor. Could have a fingerprint on it, could have blood on it.
She's just tromping through the crime scene.
Right. Just tromping all over it.
Liebman argues it's impossible. None of the blood would have been found on the murderer.
Carlos de Luna's clothes were microscopically tested, his canvas shoes, his pants, his white dress shirt, and there was not a microscopic speck of blood on there.
He also points to a bloody footprint.
This is the killer's calling card. Nothing at all was made out of it.
That footprint could have helped to exonerate Carlos de Luna.
Yeah.
So Carlos de Luna was executed without any physical evidence against him, but what about those eyewitnesses? One man, Kevin Baker, stood face to face with the killer, and later that night was brought to the squad car where he positively ID'd Carlos de Luna.
The man stood there for about 15 seconds looking over the shoulder of a taller police officer and then said, "Yeah, that's the guy, get me out of here."
That's pretty strong, isn't it?
No, it's actually quite weak because people can make a mistake, especially under stress and especially in cases of cross-racial, cross-ethnic identifications.
In 2004, Liebman and his team tracked Kevin Baker down and taped their interview with him.
How certain were you that night?
Probably 70%. It wasn't 50-50. It was more. But I will say this. One of the police officers did mention to me, we found this guy hiding underneath the car without a shirt on, 2 blocks north of us.
If they had not said that, would you be less than 70% sure?
Yes.
Okay. Where would you say you'd be if they hadn't said that?
It would have been a 50-50, I think.
Okay, so there was no blood on Carlos de Luna, and now the key eyewitness is doubtful. But then there's this. Liebman has unearthed a previously unheard police radio tape indicating officers may have chased another man before their attention was drawn to de Luna.
Also, witnesses are saying he had a white untucked t-shirt. I don't know if it's another suspect or the same one.
But the most shocking new evidence Liebman discovered, Carlos Hernandez allegedly boasted he was the killer. He looked a lot like Carlos de Luna, and unlike de Luna, Hernandez was a known violent criminal who liked to use a knife on his victims, one similar to the one found at the crime scene. 2 women overheard Hernandez bragging, but they were never questioned by police.
Me and Priscilla were sitting on the steps, on the very top steps. So we overheard that, that Carlos Hernandez had hurt Wanda.
He was bragging to Javier, my uncle, that he had hurt somebody.
I was scared because of what I had started to put 2 and 2 together and what Carlos Hernandez had did to Mr. Lopez.
From the moment he was arrested, Carlos de Luna said he didn't do it, and later he testified in court that a man named Carlos Hernandez did, but his claims were dismissed by the prosecution. De Luna's defense lawyer, James Lawrence, met us in the same courtroom where de Luna was tried and sentenced to death. Lawrence says he tried his best.
What do I have to counteract anything? Had we had that other tape, good gosh, I got something. Because then you could have said, was that the Carlos Hernandez that we've been looking for? Yes.
The prosecution team declined to speak with us on the record. Rose Roton is de Luna's sister.
I've always known Carlos was innocent. It's just that we did not know how to help him.
She said her final goodbye to her brother on December 7th, 1989, right before he was executed by lethal injection.
At the end, he said, "I'm innocent. You're executing the wrong person."
It's what he said all along.
Maybe one day the truth will come out, and I'm hoping it will. Because if I end up getting executed for this purpose, I don't think it's right.
He had dreams until the end, too.
I was to get on. I think I would try to preach the Word of God, man, because I've learned that while being here, that's the only way, man, that I can make it now.
Carol Pickett, the death row chaplain, always felt de Luna was innocent, and he watched him die on the gurney.
He lay down and he said, "Will you hold my hand?" Well, I said, "I'll hold it."
What's the lesson for the rest of us?
You need to look at the whole picture. What is it accomplishing? It's not deterring crime.
Carlos de Luna is long dead now, Wanda Lopez too, but their tragic story may hold an eternal truth.
What I really want to come out of this is simply for the American public to make a judgment about how real the risk is that we can take innocent life in a case like this. And we really have no idea how many other cases there are that are just like this.
Our thanks to Terry for that compelling report. 10 years after de Luna was executed, Hernandez died from liver disease in a Texas prison. He was 44 and back in prison for attacking a neighbor with a knife. So tell us what you think about the death penalty. Tweet us at Nightline.